Alright, this week on Garage Talks, we're going to be talking about the difference between a suspension lift and a body lift. So, before we get started, be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out our banners and shirts. They'll both be in the description below. They're on different pages. We're going to try and get them put together at some point. But for now, check those out. The banners are 22 inches long. They come in white, red, blue, green, and black. Be sure to get them. They're limited supply, and pretty well sold out of them all now. Thanks for tuning into 5.7 Lifestyle Garage Talks. Okay, so one of the biggest questions I get on my Instagram page and Facebook is, what kind of lift should I go with? Or, what's the difference between a body lift and a suspension lift? Well, back in the day, there used to be quite a big difference because you'd lift an old Chev and you could see right under the frame, it looked terrible. Everybody can tell you put a body lift in. Now, Dodge comes with inner fenders. You can put a body lift in one truck and level it, and put a suspension lift in another truck. You won't be able to tell the difference. Yes, 1 in 10 people can tell the difference. But for what trucks are used for these days, you can get away with a body lift. So let's talk about some of the differences. This is the frame of your truck. A suspension lift pushes the suspension down below the frame. Allows for bigger tires and more clearance. Where a body lift raises the body up, which still allows for bigger tires, which in the end is more clearance. Which the whole point of a lift is more clearance and how your truck looks. So if you go a 3-inch body lift, you can fit 35-inch tires no problem. And if you put a leveling kit with that, you're sitting at the exact same height as a 6-inch suspension lift. Now, if you put a 6-inch suspension lift, you can again fit 35-inch tires. And you can fit 37s, but you probably need a bit of trimming. Now, the advantage to the body lift is you technically don't need to run wheel spacers because your tires are pushed out the same distance as before. Or if you go with a suspension lift, you need wheel spacers because the arm at the front will rub on your tire. Suspension lift, you're getting wheel spacers. Now, I understand everybody wants stance when they go up higher and you're running the bigger tires. I'd still go with at least an 1.5 inch spacer or get a 0 offset rim. Body lifts, when you go up your 3 inches, the kit costs $500. It's about $600 Canadian with shipping. And in the States, it costs, I think, about $400. So it's about $500 to do a body lift if you install it yourself. I did mine myself. It took me 4 hours. Plan on doing a future video on explaining how to install it. Now, if you put Bilstein 5100s with it, set at the highest setting with your body lift, I think they're about $300. You can install them yourself. There's lots of videos on YouTube on how to do it. You'll be sitting at the same as a 6-inch lift, and you'll be less than $1,000 at the end of it if you do it yourself. It'll be about $2,000 if you pay somebody to do it. Where a 6-inch suspension lift, I went with Rough Country, which is one of the cheaper ones, and it cost me $1,900 for the lift and $700 for the install. And that's Canadian prices, a little cheaper in the States, but I got a good deal on that. So I paid $2,600, where you could have the same height for $1,000 or $2,000, depending if you have somebody install it. The body lift's super easy to do. Suspension lift's easy to do if you know what you're doing. I didn't have time. I was busy with work, so I got somebody to do it for me. Now, I have both a suspension lift and a body lift. Happy with both of them. If somebody only wanted to go up 6 inches, I'd be telling them to go with the body lift. Now, my reasons behind that are, 1, you can install it yourself. 2, it doesn't change any of the suspension parts in the truck, so everything stays OEM. You don't have to worry about, buying a cheap kit or whatever. Body lift's a body lift. That's made by Performance Accessories. And it's a 3-inch, you can get an 1.5 inch, but 1.5 inch isn't even worth it. So if you get the 3-inch body lift, all you do is raising your cab up, extending your steering. That's it. And you have brackets that lift your bumpers up. It doesn't change anything. Everything is still OEM. You're not even removing any OEM parts aside from the bolts that hold the cab to the frame. It just works out better in the end. You're not messing with any warranty issues and the rest of the stuff. Plus, you can get your bigger tires on, which is all that really matters. Whereas suspension lift, you're adding longer components, bigger components, and you're changing out OEM components. So you might run into an issue with the dealership. I made a video here saying that suspension lift doesn't affect your warranty, and where I live, it doesn't. But people are commenting saying it all depends on the dealership. Legally, no, it can't affect your warranty, but dealerships have ways around that. Then again, most suspension lifts that you buy come with their own warranty, so the parts are covered anyways. Now, when you do a body lift, you don't need an alignment because you didn't screw with any of the suspension parts. When you have bigger tires, it's recommended, but it's not required. If you do a suspension lift, you have to get an alignment. That's another $150, $200, depending where you live. Some are cheaper. Again, I make these videos in Canada. Some of you guys are in the States. Prices vary. So, when it's all said and done, if you're not planning on going that tall, go with the body lift and a leveling kit. Now, I don't recommend doing the blocks. I recommend doing the adjustable Bilstein shocks. If you're planning on going more than 6 inches, like I did, where you do a body lift and a suspension lift, throw in the suspension lift. Either way, you can do one after the other, but if you're planning on stopping after 6 inches, do the body lift. There's a lot less problems to go wrong. Everything stays OEM, parts are cheaper. That's my 2 cents. Like I said, main difference, one changes all the suspension components, one just lifts the cab up. Both you can fit 35 for sure. You can fit 37s if you want to do some trimming. That's pretty well it for today's Garage Talk. Be sure to slap that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.